Hey, did you know that Astro sells things that aren't headsets? Neither did I, until my manager told me. Like this, the AO3 in-ear monitor. It's like a headset, but you don't have all this stuff on your head, so you can listen to things on the go, or not on the go. I don't care what you do with them. Or this, the adapter for the, it's upside down, the adapter for the PS5, because it doesn't have an optical port on it. So I use this and just plug in everything to this, and then I plug it in the PS5 and just leave it plugged in. It works super good, no problem. And that's it. And they also sell headsets. And other things too, probably. Hello, everyone. So, I've put out a couple of videos already on armor and builds and how to make an armor build and all of that. But I thought it would be helpful, to some people anyway, to see how I actually go about making an armor set for myself from scratch, and how you can optimize your armor building experience to maximize all of your stats. This is going to be a dense video. It's going to hit some points and some levels of detail that I don't normally hit. Yes, I know my inventory is a nightmare. It's because I've been hoarding stuff specifically for this video, and because I'm remaking a bunch of armor sets on my characters. And finally, this my dog Brimstone. He's very sleepy, so if you hear him snoring in the background, that's what that noise is. Your Brim. All right. The tool I'm going to be using today is Brimstone. No, it's Destiny Item Manager's Loadout Optimizer. For those who don't know what Destiny Item Manager is, first of all, get your life together, okay? Second of all, it is a wonderful tool that I've been using for years now to organize my Destiny inventory. And they have this great feature called the Loadout Optimizer, which we'll be using today. If you're familiar with this feature already, you just want to see me build some sets, skip to the time on screen right now. All right, the Loadout Optimizer analyzes all of your armor on a specific class. We're going to start with my Titan, in your inventory, in your vault, I think even in your Postmaster, and it analyzes everything in order to, well, you know, optimize the stat distribution on your armor sets by linking together every single combination of all your armor pieces in order to get you the highest stats. However, as you can see here, unfiltered, it's pretty messy. There's tons of combinations here, all with wildly different distributions of stats and exotics with armor and other builds that I already have set up that I don't want to get used again. So we got some work to do. If I'm just starting with a blank slate, it's going to toss everything that I have into any possible build. And if you just want to kind of see what you're working with, you can do that, and that's great, but I don't want to do that. I want to filter this down. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enter the command in the command line -is in loadout. It's going to take the is command and invert it with the instruction in loadout, so it hides anything that I currently already have in a loadout on Destiny Item Manager. I don't know this command line very well, by the way. I don't know all of the commands. I am learning. Please do not yell at me. So, now we have removed all of the armor that I have in sets, so nothing's going to be used multiple times. Cool. Now let's say I want to ditch all my exotics. I just want to work with legendary armor. Not all exotics are good. They're not all going to fit in my build. We're going to do a very similar thing here. -is exotic. Instead of showing exotics, they are now all gone. However, odds are you're probably going to want to use a specific armor piece in your armor set, so we're going to cover how to make it so your exotic is static in just a second. The Titan build that I'm going to be making today revolves around 1-2 Punch and Worm God Caress. It's a build I used a few seasons ago. Season 10? Season 10. I miss it. I want to use it again. For this video, we're going to utilize Top Tree Sentinel to maximize my overshield uptime. This means I'm going to have somewhat of a strength focus. I want as close to 100% uptime as possible on that overshield, even though Top Tree already gets you some energy, I know that. I personally value recovery very highly across all classes and almost all builds, so recovery is going to be the primary focus, followed by intellect and strength. So why is that? Well, first of all, recovery as a stat's really good, but recovery and intellect are some of the most valuable stats to have on your gear specifically, because the mods for recovery and intellect are more expensive than other stats. So it's better to get those stats from your gear if you're searching for them, as opposed to mods. Having to use more expensive stat mods means you don't get as much access to other mods on your armor. So unless you really want to focus on something else, recovery and intellect should, I think, be a priority to some degree on most of your armor sets in general. Before we do any building, though, we gotta lock Worm God Caress so that every single build has Worm God in it. So we're gonna pin it. We're gonna click pin. We're gonna find here, and that's it. This doesn't have to be exotic either. It could be like any armor piece that you want. Like say you really want this particular helm to be in the set, you can do that too. But for this example, we want Worm God. So boom, now everything's got Worm God in it. Another thing I personally do is I assume masterworked stats. This is because I have the capability to masterwork any armor that I want. I have a lot of materials. I kind of play this video game a lot, so I got a lot of stuff. If you do not have the ability to masterwork anything that you want all the time, I would turn this off. And that's going to dramatically change things around for you. Note that the stats shown here do not include any mods equipped in your armor or your subclass if you're doing stasis stuff. This is purely armor stats only. Lastly, be sure to reorganize the order of the stats over here on the left to make it easier to find what you're looking for. I want recovery, intellect, and strength, so I'm going to organize it. Recovery, intellect, and then strength. And then the other three I don't really care as much about. Now, we really want to maximize our high cost stats, our high energy stats. So I'm going to look to get them pretty high. Intellect. Let's say I want a minimum of tier 5. I want at least tier 5 on anything that I look at. Boom. So now we have all Worm God Caress and at least 5 intellect on every single build. You good, Brim? Recovery. I want my highest possible is 8. I'd be okay with 7 as well. Higher the better here. And then finally, I want some like decent strength, you know, so I can maximize the overshield part of the build, the whole kind of point. Fortunately, the optimizer's given me some pretty decent builds here already with armor that isn't in another build. So we got 8 recovery, 5 intellect, 7 strength. We got a 766, another 766, 857. So we got a couple of options here. So now it's going to come down to what do I want in the other stats. This isn't really a Grandmaster build due to the melee and shotgun focus. You just rarely want to be doing that in GMs. This is more of a Legend, Master, seasonal activity kind of build. So to me, resilience doesn't matter as much here. Mobility might be good to move around a bit faster given the nature of the build. Discipline's always going to be great to have, especially if I want to change things up. Maybe I go middle tree and I just do punching and grenades and explosions and all that kind of stuff. And that's pretty neat too. Anytime you see a stat line with a 0.5 in it, by the way, it means a small stat mod will get you to that next tier. But I kind of try to avoid these unless I know that I'm going to have a piece of armor with a mod that uses a lot of energy or multiple mods that use a lot of energy where I could stick in a small stat mod. This takes a bit of future planning, forward thinking. I'm not really about that life when it comes to managing all of this friggin' armor that I have. Ideally, you should already know what mods you're going to be cramming in your armor. I never really do. I don't think that far ahead. Should I? Yes. Do I? No. From here, just kind of comes down to my personal preference and making tweaks where I want to make them. And at this point, I would save the loadout and I would name it so that way I could keep it all together. And if I got to make changes or I just want to start over, I could do that no problem. So let's just pick one for the sake of the video. This one. Right here, and be Worm God Caress build. I guess I've already done one in Destiny Item Manager. So boom, and I hit save. This is also where I would start to analyze what elements my armor pieces are going to be. Because, for example, Void Worm Gods have mods that give you class energy when using your other abilities. I don't really want that. I want the other ones. So I'd probably change them to Solar or Arc to get grenade energy on melee hits or melee energy on grenade hits. whatever I wanted to do. Then I'd need to figure out what mods I would be running in general in this build. I'd probably run with a melee resistance mod in the chest armor given the build, although I wouldn't really need an easy stuff, but that is a really, really cheap mod, so it's not that big of a deal. Am I doing Warmind cells? Am I doing Charged with Light? Am I doing Elemental Wells? What guns am I going to use? I'm definitely going to use a shotgun. What kind of other weapons am I going to use? Am I going to use a sword? Would it really matter? Am I going to run super defensive mods like Protective Light and Well of Tenacity to really stay in the fray? Do they even stack? I don't effing know. Who cares? It seems pretty cool, right? Maybe I'll do research on that later, or someone will just tell me in the comments. Maybe I'm going to use Striking Light. Maybe I'm going to use Radiant Light. I got to figure all that out, all of that stuff, and then I'll change my elements around. And that's what I do. Are my builds perfect? Of course they are. They're brilliant. They're fantastic. No, they are far from it. I'm sure I could be filtering things down even more, planning farther ahead. I do not have the patience for it. Not to mention, you don't really need to go that far unless you're trying to get like 103 stats, but that requires you to use stasis, which is like a whole other layer since fragments come with stats on them. So now you got to think about what fragments you're going to be using before you make the armor set and calculate all that in. I'm just trying to give examples and just, have some sort of a guideline for how I go about making my builds so that you have an idea of how to do it yourself. Finally, when you're done, you're going to want to tag those armor pieces so that way you can just see from a glance what's in a set and what isn't, just, in case you're inundated with a bunch of armor. To do that, you're going to click on the item. Well, this one's already tagged, so we're just going to clear it, and it's right here, tag item, and that's a keeper right there. If anyone from Destiny Item Manager is watching this, by the way, I would not mind being able to mark my armor pieces with like a colored circle icon or something, or just like maybe a 50% color gradient on it or an overlay just to see what armor pieces belong to each set at a glance. I could just look at my inventory and be like, okay, boom, 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 boom. All of those belong together. I could just do like is in loadout. I get that, but I just want to be able to see it at a glance. In case anybody's watching. I don't know. Maybe I can already do that and I'm just dumb. But I think that would be neat. Maintenance. Maintaining these sets is really tough, because you could just get one armor piece with a slightly different stat roll, and that could re-optimize like 17 different gear sets that you have in your inventory. Honestly, I would not bother with this whatsoever, as you will drive yourself insane doing it. Maybe if you want to keep a couple of flex options, definitely nice to have multiple chest pieces with different elements for damage resistance. But if you have like 2 to 3 to 4 sets per character, I would not bother with checking to see if certain things are upgrades unless you are that meticulous about things. I refresh my fashion every 4 to 6 months. I refresh the actual armor far less frequently now, because it's armor sunsetting is not a thing anymore, because I just don't think there's a massive need to do that, especially for the average player. Like, stat lines are staying basically around where they are for the foreseeable future. There's no reason to constantly be checking every single little piece of armor unless you just really want to do that. What now? Let's try a hunter. We're gonna do a hunter build. I need a solo Grandmaster build for my hunter, using the 6th Coyote to generate melee charges for smoke bombs for myself to go invis. So we're going to pin 6th Coyote. Where is it? Here it is. That's the one I'm going to be using. I'm going to keep the setting for armor in other sets off or on, technically. I don't know which one, because I only have like one hunter set right now, so I can just blow up all the other ones, but I'll recognize if I'm using a piece already. This is a pretty niche build. Not many people are going to need this at all. I do because of a charity incentive, so we're going to make it. Mobility. It's pretty good for hunters. Probably push it up there a little bit. But, we're going to have Heart of the Pack. That gives me mobility, and I'm going to equip Powerful Friends for the plus 20 mobility. It's Powerful Friends, right? Plus 20 mobility. So I'm not really going to need to go super wild on mobility. At least I don't think that I will. It's my first time doing solo GMs. I guess we're going to find out. I don't think I'm going to need to be dodging, every 10, 11 seconds. I guess we'll see. Recovery and intellect, I think, again, going to be good plays here. Although with what I imagine to be a pretty slowly paced experience, because of restrictive loadout conditions, maybe I won't need intellect as much as I think that I do, because I'll just be sitting idle generating the energy anyway. For now, I'm going to keep it a little higher than lower. It's my first time doing solo GMs. I can tweak it all later. This is just an example. Recovery, valuable everywhere, even in GMs where you're getting hit for, you know, almost your entire health bar. Oh, speaking of almost being one shot, resilience. Believe it or not, resilience can actually be a difference maker in PvE. I've been in situations where going up 1 resilience enabled me to survive an attack that was previously one-shotting me, most of the time from a sniper. So I'm going to be opting for at least 5, but no more than 6. And you can see I already have this one built from a previous attempt at making this video. So why don't you just ignore that for a second? I'll put a little thing over it. There you go. It's not there. Okay, so what do we have here? Well, if I'm going for at least 7, let's say 7 recovery, and I want 5 intellect, and I want 5 resilience, well, that's it. This is all I can do. This is the build. Let's reset that real quick. So we got a little more options here. There's a lot of like 6 recovery, 6 intellect builds that we got going on here. 6, 5. I would like a little bit more recovery like this, but then like the intellect's low and the mobility's low. You know, if this is the best we got, then, you know, we got to make do. I mean, this is a pretty good one right here. 6, 8, and 4.5. We could easily mod for some mobility. We can get 7 mobility pretty easily. These gloves, dude, look at these gloves. I can't believe that this abomination Destiny calls a gauntlet armor is not only potentially going into an armor set, but is actually one of the best options for the build that I'm looking for due to the resilience that I want, and it's stupidly high intellect. You know, again, here, mobility's a little bit low here, but with Powerful Friends, I can make this tier 6. I can mod for some more. We could make this the set. We could make this the set. You know, they're otherwise pretty close. I'm basically trading a 0.5 point of recovery for a 0.5 point of mobility. Ideal, like, this is technically the better set because mobility mods are cheaper than recovery mods. I just really wanted to make this joke about this set of gloves that I got the other day. So, yeah. So we're gonna make this the set, and we already have. Yeah, and then I'd go in game and I'd mod it all up and I'd do some experimenting, and that's how that would go. Okay, Warlock. Let's do Warlock. My Warlock's armor sets are in shambles right now, so I'm gonna have no restrictions here whatsoever. My favorite playstyle, again, is Crown of Tempest ability spam. I've shown off this build before. We're gonna remake this set with different armor pieces. This isn't much of an end game set. It's more for at-level content, and it's actually gonna focus less on intellect and more on ability spam with discipline and strength, since Crown of Tempest will get us fast supers if we use our abilities well. So we're gonna pin, boom, and we got the crown. Okay, so let's make sure we're all reset here. I think we are. Okay. We're gonna also move that. Nope. There you go. And we're gonna move these up here like that. Okay. So we got some interesting stuff here. This is 9 recovery. Okay. Let's say I don't want any higher than like 4 mobility, because like we don't really need mobility for this build. Yeah, there's that 9 recovery. We wouldn't have to mod for any. I kind of think at level content, 9 recovery is edging on the side of overkill. Like, it's not, like, I'll take it, but it is a lot for content that just doesn't really matter that much. 8 discipline's great. 3 strength, not as great. You know, we could mod for that. We got another 8.3, we got a 6.5, we got a 6.4.5, 6.4, 6.4 is 5.5, 6. So 6 discipline, 5 strength. It's a little more balanced, but you know, they cost the same in terms of mod energy. So we're just looking for the highest total between the two. Right now, 8.3, that's 11, 6 and 5, that's 11. So we got the highest is 11. So what's the highest combo we can get here? So let's set our What are we gonna do? Highest discipline, 8. Okay, well, let's change our mobility to that. So, like, no restrictions on anything. We just want highest discipline. Okay, so without that mobility restriction, we get it up to 13. We got 8 and 5. But with that mobility restriction, the highest we could do appears to be 11, maybe 11 and a half. I do really want that mobility restriction, but if we can make this work, like, this is 6.5, but we're getting higher of this. But if we go from 9 to 6.5, just to go up 2 strength, we're also getting wasted stats into mobility. I don't really want mobility that much. So now we've just traded 3 recovery for 2 strength and 2 mobility, or maybe even 3 mobility. I forget what this was on earlier. Normally, that's like an awful trade, but given that we're trying to go for a discipline strength-based build, and given that we're mainly going to be using this in activities that don't really matter that much, like, it's not the worst trade in the world. You know, these are all choices, by the way, that you will be making with your armor sets. I'm not going to make any explicit calls right here, right now, because I'd be here forever. Just kind of got to think about it. You know, I'd probably cram a small recovery in there as well. We got rifts too. Like, it's a whole thing. So, yeah, I'd mess around with this a bit more. Filter it down to really what I want. And then I would mod everything up. And then as soon as I'm fully locked in, I'm going to masterwork everything once we're 100%. And then I'll do the fashion. Sometimes I do the fashion before the masterwork just to kind of see how everything works. Whew. Okay. That is how I make armor sets. Again, I'm sure there are plenty of more things that you could be doing to really refine the armor building experience. I just don't really think that hard about it. If you're drowning in gear and you just have no idea what to do, start making a couple of armor sets. It really helps me organize. I actually find it quite cathartic. Like, look at my inventory. It's a disaster. Like, this is awful. But again, I was waiting to make this video. I'm redoing a bunch of sets. If your inventory is looking like this, but you don't have sets, start building some sets, and that'll help you maintain a clear inventory because you can just start deleting stuff as it comes in. You don't need to worry about it because you already have the sets, and you're not a crazy person that's going to check if every single armor piece is an upgrade. But if you do want to do that, you can do pin equipped, and then you can just see like, oh, I just got a new helm. Is that an upgrade? So now it pins everything else in your set, and it just looks at all the helms. So you can kind of do it like that if you really wanted to, if you're looking to do that. Whew. Okay. You good, Brim? And a pet. A pet to Brim. Hi, Brim. Poop. All right, I hope that helped, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.